Okay, I want to pick up today in verse 9 of Genesis chapter 29. It says there, Jacob was still talking with them when Rachel arrived with her flock, for she was a shepherd. And that's interesting. You know, we don't think about ladies in the Bible being shepherds, but here she was taking care of the flocks. It says in verse 10, and because Rachel was his cousin, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and because the sheep and goats belonged to his uncle Laban, Jacob went over to the well and moved the stone from its mouth and watered his uncle's flocks. Okay, now remember, for today's time, signs of wealth were much different than in previous times. You know, for us in our country, a sign of wealth may be clothes, shoes. For a lady, a certain brand of purse. It may be a piece of electronics, your computer, your phone. A car is a sign of wealth. You know, somebody pulls up in a Mercedes and gets out. Immediately, people go, "That guy must have money." When in fact, most of the time, what that is that guy has a lot of bills. It doesn't actually has a lot of payments, and they are balanced on a razor's edge. But that's a mini message for another day. But in this time, a sign of wealth were flocks. When you had herds, you had flocks, you had sheep, goats, cattle, that was wealth. That was money walking on four legs. And really, same for today in a lot of ways. You know, we think about somebody having a large herd of cattle, especially where we're at in Okeechobee. That's a sign of wealth. It's like, ooh, this guy's got money. So that's how Jacob was looking at this. I mean, he sees Rachel coming up with this flock. That was a sign of wealth for this family. So Jacob, he immediately, when she comes up, knowing who she is, he went over to the well, he moved the stone from its mouth, and he himself watered his uncle's flocks. I think there's a couple of things happening here. Number one, he wants to ingratiate himself to Laban. He wants to ingratiate himself to Rachel as well. And so he was more than willing to show kindness on a couple of levels because he also understood he was coming here to find a wife. That was one of the purposes. That's what his mother told his father that they're doing. Now, one of the reasons was to get away from Esau, but getting a wife in the deal, not bad either, is it? So when you go down to verses 11 through 14, it says, then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. He explained to Rachel that he was her cousin on her father's side, the son of her aunt Rebekah. So Rachel quickly ran and told her father Laban. It's a big deal. I mean, we're showing up out of nowhere. They had not heard from Rebekah in years and years and years. They had no idea where she was, where she had come from, what was happening. And so getting this information is awesome. It says in verse 13, as soon as Laban heard that his nephew Jacob had arrived, he ran out to meet him. He embraced and kissed him and brought him home. And Jacob told him his story. Laban exclaimed, you are truly my flesh and blood. Jacob was guided from beginning to end to the place he needed to be because God had a plan for his life. And just as God had a plan for Jacob, God has a plan for us. See you guys soon.